we found the victims down here. They're on the lower Devil's Den Trail. I see you right there. I've got two bodies down.
Imagine being on a quiet trail in the middle of nature with your spouse and 2 young daughters. You're just out for a peaceful family hike at Devil's Den State Park. No cell service, no city noise, just trees, fresh air, and each other. Then, out of nowhere, a man steps out of the woods. His name is Andrew James McGann. Disheveled, sunken eyes, dead behind the gaze. You don't know him. He doesn't say a word. Before you can figure out what's happening, he pulls a knife. This isn't a robbery. There's no demand. He just starts stabbing.
These woods where I'm hiking right now is called the Devil's Den. And they call it that because in the 1600s, when settlers first came here, they found a rock in these woods and they said it had a footprint on it, embedded into the stone, a footprint of a goat. And these settlers say that this was the footprint of the devil. And this legend attracted many witches and other strange folks to these woods. Nobody lives around here now for miles, but the foundations of these homes still remain.
Andrew James McGann was arrested 5 days later while getting a haircut at a salon in Springdale. He didn't resist. He didn't confess on the spot. But by the time detectives sat him down, he had admitted to the killings. The details came out slowly. Police used surveillance footage, public tips, and ultimately DNA from the scene to connect him. What's shocking is what came after. McGann was a newly hired elementary school teacher. He had worked in both Texas and Oklahoma and passed all background checks. But former colleagues and parents say there were red flags for years. Odd behavior, overfamiliarity with students, tickling children, giving certain kids special attention. No criminal history, but plenty of warnings no one acted on.
Yes. You're in front of me today, sir, for your first appearance in Arkansas Criminal Procedure Act. You have 2 charges currently being against you out of the Washington County Circuit Court, both for capital murder. You should know you have the right to be represented by an attorney. A free attorney will be appointed if you can't afford one. You're not required to say anything today. Anything you say can be used against you. You also have a right to communicate with your counsel, your family or friends, and a reasonable means will be provided for you to do that. I've been presented with an affidavit of indigency this morning from Mr. Parrish. I'm going to sign off on that and appoint the public defender's office to your case moving forward to represent you.
In honor with that said, once the court's appointed, the law requires I appoint 2 attorneys to represent him who are not qualified. I will be doing something in 7 minutes to do that.
Yes, certainly, Mr. Parrish. I'll give you his next court date when we finish this. The bond is set at no bond right now with your next court appearance for August 25th of this year at 7:45 a.m. That's going to be your arraignment date at the detention center. There's been a finding made that probable cause exists at a detainee that was made by a judge previously. Anything further, Mr. Parrish, or do you wish to be heard?
Your Honor, the only other thing that I would indicate is, depending upon which division this case falls in, it may be sooner than August 25th. We don't know. We're aware of that, is what I'm saying.
All right, very good. Anything else from the state or anyone else?
Your Honor, we'd ask that you have the conditions if while detained or if released, the permitted no contact direct or indirect payment for the Brinks family.
I can add that today. There's nothing to add it to. There's no condition. Are you saying if the bond is set?
No, he's in jail.
Sure, he's not going to have contact though. If a bond is set, then a no contact provision can be part of that bond. But right now, there's no reason to do that. Anything from anyone else?
No,
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
That's that side.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
On July 26, 2025, Clinton David Brink and Cristen Amanda Brink were fatally stabbed along the hiking trail at Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas. Approximately half a mile in, their 2 daughters, ages 7 and 9, survived. Cristen led them to safety before returning to help her husband and ultimately being killed herself. Now, the 2 children were able to survive. We don't know if he spared her life or the mom was able to hide them good enough, but the suspect got away from the scene in a black Kia Stinger with the license plates taped up, but he was identified from a picture from the back of him, and the daughters were able to give identification where they were able to make a sketch of this dude, and ultimately he was caught. His name is James McGann, And this dude is a teacher that was about to start the new year teaching another school, but he also has been accused for doing inappropriate behavior with young female students, little kids, children. He actually tried to marry one of them, allegedly. This dude is a straight chomo. The red flags was there, and let's get into the mindset of why we think he did this. What is the motive?
Heard Mr. McGann tell one of the little girls, "If you were older, I would love to marry you." And that just made him deeply...
Whoa. This dude was a known chomo. So he had to go kill people?
You know of him as far as being in the school system?
Well, we first met him in 2022 when the fall semester started. It was his first year teaching, like solo, having his own classroom. And it was at Donald Elementary, and he was my son's 4th grade teacher. He taught his homeroom teacher. He had like science, math, and a few other subjects. The first time we met him was at Meet the Teacher, and he was an interesting character. He was uncomfortable, very standoffish, cold, wouldn't make eye contact. You could ask him a question, he'd give you a one-word reply. But I'll be honest, I just like he was young and a new teacher, and I was like, it's awkward, like, that's okay. It wasn't until the school year kicked up that there would be incidents in the classes, and then eventually my son started coming home from school just really depressed and glum. And one day I just kept pushing and pushing, and he broke down crying and told me that he had seen some things in the class, and other classmates had too, that just made him really uncomfortable, but that he was scared to get anyone in trouble.
Wow.
Yeah.
It involved Mr. McGann?
Yes.
Wow. How did you...
To certain girls in the class, and that when they would go out for recess, sometimes he would choose one of those girls to stay behind, just one-on-one, him in the classroom while everyone went outside. And that when they'd come back from recess, he would sometimes have the little girl in his lap. And around the same time, he would bring like treats and goodies and stuff, but just for these little girls. And I think the straw that finally, made my son just like snap and spill it all was that he had heard Mr. McGann tell one of the little girls, "If you were older, I would love to marry you."
So this dude is a known chomo. The red flags were there. He had little girls sitting on his lap. He was kissing them, telling them he wanted to marry them. So inappropriate. He ended up having to resign, but he also got another job back being a teacher. So this school year, he was ultimately going to be doing the same stuff all over again before he did these crimes. Now, has he ever done this before? That is the question, because there's a sketch coming out of another murder that happened in Vermont, and the sketch looks more like him than the sketch they made from the Devil's Den murder. So could he possibly been traveling and doing killings? It's a possibility, and I wouldn't put it past him. This dude, it looks so super evil. On Reddit, people have said they've seen him before at hiking trails. Let's get into some of these. The first OP on this Reddit user says, "Here's why I asked. My husband texted me the mugshot today and said, maybe I'm just paranoid, but doesn't this look like the guy who followed us on our hike? My husband, 2 boys, and I were hiking in Little Grand Canyon in Shawnee National Forest. Now, the husband was at the rear with the 2 young boys, and between us, a man was following them maybe 10 feet back. They didn't think of anything of it at the time, but my husband was on edge the entire track, especially when the man stopped once to put down his backpack and seemingly look for something." Now, Mr. McGann was from this area at one time, but hasn't been in the state for 10 years. So is this a coincidence? But this is the kicker. This same dude was driving a Mazda or Kia Stinger tied to the scene of the crime in Arkansas. So did this dude commit other crimes? Now, here's another Reddit user with a similar story. Now, this Reddit user says, "While I can't make the connection, I'm relieved to hear someone else had a similar experience recently. I'm in Springfield, Missouri, about 3 hours from the Devil's Den area. I was at Lake Springfield, a local park with the lake and hiking trails." Now, she says she pulled up and was going to get out, but got a weird vibe from a black 4-door car with tinted windows. At one point, I saw a man get out that looked like Andrew McGann. I remember white dude, messy, sandy, colored hair that needed cut, white shirt, tank top. What gave me a weird vibe was he had taped a white paper to his window that said "out of gas." I didn't see him walk anywhere and assumed he was in his car, but didn't see anyone in the front seat. My kids were begging me to go try to help him, and I was like, heck no. I drove out the lot, and I saw in the rear window it was completely stuffed with a bunch of items, so it made me think maybe he was unhoused. But I also noted the car was actually pretty nice and newer looking, like the Kia Stinger. Now, that's extremely creepy that this dude's been creeping around, hunting people, because honestly, there's no connection to him and the victims at this time. So what was the reason why he did this? It's because he wanted to do it. premeditation. So the premeditation factor to this crime is he put the tape on his license plate. He went into that hiking trip, or whatever you want to call it, a slaying of innocent people. He went there with the intention to kill because he had that tape on that license plate so he wouldn't get identified. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, man. This is New Age Plug. You did it again. You already know what it is. Make sure y'all smash the like button. We'll definitely revisit on this topic. But as we know, Mr. Andrew McGann is a chomo that confessed to this murder, that was being inappropriate with his students, and ultimately is going to die for these crimes, but he also should die for those crimes as well.